All right, I will say good morning. Good morning. Let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning share. To thank our TALMUD Torah sponsors for Adar Beis, the Schwarzbaum family, for dedicating all the Shuman Droshos this month. In memory of Rabbi Aaron Schwarzbaum, Rabbi Aharon Yosef, Ben Meir, zechus lebracha, Leah Sol, in the source of her daughter Ilana, Bas Esther's successful surgery and complete refuah sheleima, for the safe return of all of our hostages, and hatzlacha for our precious soldiers. Maia Hoffman, in memory of her father Reuven ben Emanuel, and the merit of hatzlacha, health and joy for her entire family. And Yoel Sara Kelman, in honor of the birth of their son, and in memory of Staff Sergeant David Sasson Hashem Yikom Damo. We hope that in the merit of our TALMUD Torah, all of the neshama slav and aliyah, the families in neshama, our hostages should be returned speedily, and our soldiers should be successful. B'chol ma'aseh yadehem. We have a Daf Yomi sponsorship today, where he is an anonymous sponsorship in honor of Maish Wordesheim's birthday. Mazel tov. This is literally the gift. Where's Maish? Okay, literally the gift that keeps on giving. Baruch Hashem, I call this the Yoni Freya. Another anonymous sponsor in honor of your birthday. You're like missing your own party over here, you know? It's incredible. Future sponsorships in honor of Maish Wordesheim's birthday are still available. Once we finish with those, we'll be back at Yoni Frager's birthday. It's incredible. Beautiful. It's beautiful to see the Chaverschaft and beautiful to see the Achdus. Incredible. I want to say today's daf is Lamed Zayin 37. We are picking up on a lot to do today. Lamed Vav Amud Beis, 27 lines up from the bottom. The short lines, 27 lines up from the bottom. So remember again, we began yesterday. Well, the end of yesterday's shir focused on what we all think is a pretty incredible case. Which is, remember again, I gave my cow to Reuven to watch. Reuven was posheh. He left the barn door open. And the animal escaped into the marsh. It died in the marsh, but it died of natural causes in the marsh. So the shaila is, what's the level of liability? So this was an interesting machlokes Abaye and Rabba. Rabba and Rava. So Rabba said you're chayiv, and Rava said ultimately again that you're potter. So we went through each of the respective positions yesterday. We had to each this. So remember again. So just working backwards. Rava. Yeah, it was. I'm sorry. It was Abaye Mishmei de Rabba. So Abaye in the name of Rabba said that you're chayiv. Rava in the name of Rabba said that you're potter. So working backwards. So Rava in the name of Rabba said that you're potter. Why? He said Malach hamaves mali hacha mali asam. What does it matter? In other words, the animal died of natural causes. So being that the animal died of natural causes, we assume that to mean animal would have died anywhere. And therefore, halacha l'maisa, there shouldn't be liability. The first opinion, Abaye in the name of Rabbah, said no, there is liability. Why? Because we were concerned, or we assume that it was the hevel, it was the bad air of the marsh that ultimately killed the animal. Okay, so we'll say that's our machlokes. Umodi Abaye agrees, Di'i hadra lebei mara, Umeisa de Pater. So we'll say Abaye agrees that what? Now remember, Abaye who says that you're chayiv, because we assume that it was the air of the marsh that killed the animal, agrees that if, let's say, the animal escaped, right, went to the marsh, and then Reuven the shomer got it back, and then returned it back to me, the owner, and then the animal died, even Abaye will agree in that case that the shomer is Pater. My time, what's the reason? Because at the end of the day, the shomer did his job and he returned the animal. And you can't claim that now it was the bad air of the marsh that killed the animal. Okay. Umodi Rava, kolecha de ignava ganav ba'agam umesa kidarka beganav dechayev. And Rava will agree that if the ganav goes ahead and, let's say, so now watch this case. I deposit the animal with Reuven. Animal escapes through an open door. Animal goes to the marsh. Animal is stolen from the marsh by a ganav, and then dies in the ganav's house. Even Rava will agree in that case that there is liability. Why? My time of dishat kemalach hamavis bebeise the ganav havakaima. Because even if the malach hamavis would have left this animal alone, there still would have been a problem. What would have been a problem? The animal was found in the house of the ganav. In other words, the animal was inaccessible to its owner, and therefore, again, the shomer failed in his shmirah. Fine. Amrli Abaye the Rava. So both say, so therefore, we are still left with our core machlokes Abaye saying that you are chayiv, Abaye saying that you are chayiv, because again, we assume that it was the bad air of the marsh that killed the animal. And ultimately, again, Rava saying that you're pater, malach hamaves malihacha, malihas. The animal died of natural causes. So what does it matter, again, if it died in the barn or it died in the marsh? Okay, let's go weiter. So normally, Abaye and the Rava, so Abaye says to Rava, lididach da amrit malach hamaves malihacha, malihasa. So according to you, Rava, who says that since the animal died of natural causes, why should the shomer have any liability? What does it matter if it died of natural causes in the barn or it died of natural causes in the marsh? Either way, it died of natural causes. Hy'd the osvei Rabbi Abba bar Mama Rabbi Ami b'shanilei b'shenasnu lo bailim rishus lahashil. So we were saying yesterday's daf. Rabbi Abba bar Mama asked the shayla to Rabbi Ami, and the answer was they were talking about a case where the owner gave the renter the right to go ahead and lend it out. Why not give the answer that I will say when the animal dies of natural causes, there should never be any liability no matter what happened. Why? Because the malach hamavis comes wherever you are. So the Gemara says, so your verse is the question. So according to you who says that the svar in yesterday's daf was that the owner of the object says to the person whom he lent it to or to he rented it to, you don't have a right to give it to anyone else. Why? I don't want my object to be in someone else's hand. Why don't you answer over here also? Then I say again, I believe you with the shvuah, but I don't believe anyone else with the shvuah. Could this not have been answered at all? So they ask on each other based on the respective sources here. Back to the conversation of yesterday's daf. Okay, so it remains unresolved. So we'll say another interesting case, or a really interesting case. Hela l'rashit sukin v'nafla. We'll say, watch this. So let's say I gave my animal to Reuven. To watch. He's a shomer. And now he brought it up to the top of the mountain. Rashit sukin means to the top of a high mountain. V'nafla. And the animal fell off and died. What's the halacha? Ein ze ones v'chayiv. So I will say, Reuven can't claim, extenuating circumstances, and therefore I'm pater. Rather, he's chayiv. He's chayiv. So the Gemara says, go on second. V'hamesa kedarka hariza onesu pater. But unless you're assuming over here that the animal died, right? The animal died, right? I'm sorry. V'hamesa kedarka hariza onesu pater. V'amai. So we'll say, so one second. What about so the reason why Reuven's liable in this case is why? Because the animal fell off the mountain, right? That's why he's chayiv. Because also you can't. In other words, if you take an animal onto a high mountain and the animal falls off the mountain, you can't claim ones. You can't claim ones, right? And therefore, again, you're chayiv. Now, we'll say the Gemara makes an interesting observation. What do you see from here? Let's say Reuven took my animal up to the top of the mountain, and the animal didn't fall off. The animal died of natural causes. So we'll say, what does it sound like? Hareza ones upater. That sounds like an extenuating circumstance, and Reuven would be pater. V'amai, but why? Le'malei avira dahar katla. Why not say that it was the air of the high altitude that killed the animal? In other words, the same way I will say that Abaye says that when the animal goes into the swamp and it dies in the swamp, even though it looks like it died of natural causes, we attribute that to the foul air of the swamp. Say the same thing, and the animal's on a high altitude. It was the high altitude that killed the animal, and therefore, again, Reuven should be chayiv. Inami, to which the Gemara says, Inami, of tzuna dahar katla, or maybe what is the steep incline, in other words, the extra exertion on the animal that caused it to die. So what's the case over here? Shehela lemira shamin v'tov. Now what's the case over here is where Reuven took my animal up to a pasture land on the top of the mountain. In other words, literally again, shamin means like fat, like a rich and good pasture land. So I will say, apparently what the Gemara is saying is like this. It was common for people to graze their animals on this pasture land on the top of the mountain. So obviously, the air quality was okay. The steep incline wasn't too much for the animals because everyone was doing it. Therefore, again, that's why if the animal dies of natural causes up there, you're okay. Ihachi, nafla nami. One second, if that's the case, even if the animal falls off the mountain, you shouldn't be chayiv because it was normal to take animals up there. To which the Gemara says, Shahayelo l'tokfo v'lo tokfa. No, because even if there's a normal pastoral land there, and it's normal for people to take their animals up there, you still have to hold on to your animal very carefully when leading it up and leading it down. And obviously, if it fell off the cliff, that means, or fell off the mountain, that means you didn't do a good job. Ihachi, emaresha, also the Rashi Tzukin Benafla Hareza Ones, Ibai Limit Kifa. If that's the case, I say, then what? Then look at the Resha. You've brought it up to the top of the mountain and it fell off. This is an Ones. So why is it an Ones? At the end of the day, you should have held on to the animal. No, but say that case is talking about a situation where halacha might say he did hold on to the animal, but despite holding on to the animal still fell off and died. So we'll say in that kind of case, that would be an Ones. In other words, if the shomer of Reuven takes all of the necessary precautions, but the animal still dies, then the animal still falls off, then that is going to be a case of Ones. So we'll say, so that's the end of this sugya. We'll say, now how do we paskin? Because this happens to be an interesting scenario. So remember again, we have one simple case, Machlokes Abai and Rava. I gave my animal to Reuven. Reuven left the barn door open. Barn door open. The animal got out, went to the agam, went to the marsh, died of natural causes in the marsh. So is there liability or not? So machlokes, opinion number one, says no, he died of natural causes. Mali hacha, mali hasan. The malachamavas is going to get him. What does it matter if it's here in the barn or if it's outside? Second opinion, no, it's quite possible that the foul air of the marsh killed the animal. So we'll say, so what is the halacha? So the Rambam Paskins, Hilchos Chiros, Perek Gimel Halacha Yud, Pasha Bavi Yatza the Akom Meisasham Kidarka, Pater. She'in Yitziasa Garma Lo Shetavo Lidei Onezeh Hoil Ukedarka Mesa Mali Bebeis Hashomer Mali Ba'adam. So we'll say we paskin like Abaye in this case. We paskin like Abaye in this case. That halacha l'maisa, you're going to be pater, because since the animal died of natural causes, we assume the same natural causes that killed the animal in the marsh are the same natural causes that killed the animal that would have killed the animal in the barn as well. Therefore, halacha l'maisa, Reuven will not be chayiv. Now, I want to point out, remember, many moons ago, we learned the sugya of tchilasa b'pshia v'sofo ba'ones, where you do something that is negligent, but the negligence results in an unavoidable circumstance. So remember, we paskin, tchilasa b'pshia v'sofo ba'ones is chayiv. That's how we paskin. When you do something that is negligent, and the negligent act ultimately leads to a result in an unavoidable circumstance, you are still liable because you got that process started. So just to point out, this case is different because since, again, this is natural death, we assume the halacha assumes natural death would have occurred wherever the animal is. Even though we pass in tchilasa b'shev safa ba'ones is chayiv, in this case you're going to be pater. Also, we also remember again, we always speak out this idea that tchilasa b'shev safa ba'ones chayiv is not just a din in halacha, but also a din in hashkafa. That many times in life, we are negligent, and then things happen, and the result often is an ones, is an unavoidable circumstance. And often we free ourselves from liability because, hey, look, I didn't do that. These circumstances were visited upon me. While it may be true that the result was visited upon you, but many times in life when things go wrong, it's important to ask ourselves, how did I get here? Now, sometimes the whole thing is ones, right? There are onsim. There are unavoidable, overwhelming circumstances in life. But many times in life, when things go wrong, it's because I made poor decisions at the outset of a process. And ultimately, again, those poor decisions in the beginning led me to a point over here. Right now, it's an ones. So right now, there are circumstances beyond my control that are being visited upon me. So right now, it's an ones. But how did I get to these circumstances in life? Because I was a posheya. Because I was negligent. How careful we have to be with our decisions. Because so often the decisions we make in the here and now put us on a course that is only going to be determined days, weeks, months, or sometimes years later. The decisions now have long-lasting impact, and therefore pay close attention before we make them. Because if I make bad decisions now, even if halacha l'maisa it's an ones later on, I still bear the responsibility for that. Overwhelming. Let's go back there. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi, Ketzad Hala Oses Schora Beparos. Let's remember again in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi said, come on, remember again the case of the Mishnah, where I went ahead and I rented a cow to Reuven. Reuven then went ahead and lent it to Shimon. So what happens? Shimon is a shoel. The animal dies. The animal, dies of natural causes. So remember again, a shoel is chayiv, but a socher is pater. So Reuven technically is pater to me, but Reuven could collect on the cow from Shimon who he lent it to. Rabbi Yossi says, come on, that is ridiculous. How can it be that I, the owner of the animal, are going to get nothing, and Reuven, the renter, is going to get a payday? It doesn't make any sense. To which the Gemara says, Am Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Halach Rabbi Yossi. The halach is like Rabbi Yossi. Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Tal Mishmei de Shmuel. Chaluk Haya Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi even disagreed about say Af Barishon, top of Lamazayim 37a. Even in the first case. I'm going to say now, what's the first case? The first case is the first case of the parak. Rashi says over here, B'shilem v'lo ratza lishava, case zazen nosin l'soch kiso kfelo shalzeh. First, remember again, we had this case. I go ahead and I gave my cow to Reuven to watch. Right? They come back to get it back. Reuven says the cow died. I'm so sorry. Right? I said, how did it die? What happened? So Reuven says, it died of natural causes. In which case, Reuven would normally be pater. So remember again, but Reuven has to swear that that's what happened. Reuven says, I don't want to swear. I'm just going to pay. Fine. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me reframe it. Reuven said the animal was stolen. Nignava. I say, fine. Technically, he's pater. I say, Reuven, take a shvuah that's true. And so, what? I don't like taking shvuahs. I'm just going to pay you. Here's the money. So we'll say, what's the halach? What did the Mishnah say? Let's say they track down the ganav, and the ganav pays kefil. Who gets the kefil? Reuven, the shomer, right? By paying, he's entitled to the gopher. Rabbi Yossi doesn't like that. And Rabbi Yossi says, come on, that doesn't make any sense. The kefil belongs to the owner of the object. I'm the owner of the object. Granted, Reuven paid because he didn't want to swear. But why should Reuven be entitled to kefil? So Rabbi Yossi disagreed even in that case. The Gemara says, halacha kamoso and halacha kamoso. Does the halacha follow him or not? Amalei, chalakai Rabbi Yossi af barishon. Halacha kamoso. So he responded, Rabbi Yossi disagreed even in that first case, that the shomer should be entitled to the kefil, and the halacha follows him. So we'll say, itmar nami amra belazar, chalakai Rabbi Yossi af barishona, ba'alacha kimoso. So ba'alacha kimoso av barishona. So fine, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Modahai Rabbi Yossi barishona, shekvar shilem. Rabbi Yochanan disagreed. Rabbi Yochanan said, no. Rabbi Yossi agrees in the first case. Right? Rabbi Yossi agrees in the first case, namely, that Allah so once the shomer pays, if they subsequently track down the ganav, the shomer is entitled to the kefil, to the arba v'chavish. We'll say, we already established that. That is the halacha. That if the shomer decides to go ahead and pay instead of swear, and they ultimately find the ganav, whether the ganav is chayiv kefil, arba v'chamisha, whatever he is, that goes to the shomer. So we pass in that day. So Rabbi Yochanan comes along and he says, Rabbi Yossi is only disagreeing in this Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi is not disagreeing in the previous Mishnah. So the Gemara says, now, the Gemara just makes an interesting diuk. Shekvar shilem in, lo shilem lo. Now, is it only if the ganav actually paid for the value of the cow? But if he didn't pay, what if he just made a commitment to pay, but he didn't yet actually pay, that he's not entitled to the Keva Vat. Remember again, we had this just a few days ago. Lo shilem mamish. So we'll say, what did we learn before? We learned that halacha l'maisa. When does the shomer become entitled to the kefil, to the arba v'chavisha? When? As soon as there is a verbal commitment to pay, even if he did not yet actually pay. But yet, from the way Rabbi Yossi frames it sounds like Rabbi Yossi saying, in order to be entitled to the kefil, to the arba v'chamisha, the shomer has to actually pay. To which the Gemara says, no. Ema moda hay Rabbi Yossi barishona shekvar amar hareini mishalim. No. Rather read it as saying Rabbi Yossi agrees that the shomer is entitled to the kefil, to the arba v'chamisha. Why? Because he already articulated a willingness to go ahead and pay. So I will say, so therefore again, as we close out this sugya, so we pass like Rabbi Yossi in this Mishnah, but not like Rabbi Yossi in the previous Mishnah. So we already established that Allah in a case where the shomer says, I'm going to pay and not swear, effectively, I will say, by paying, the shomer kind of becomes the owner of the animal, right? And therefore, again, halacha l'maisa, he is entitled to future kefil or to future arba v'chamisha. That's how he paskin, not like Rabbi Yossi. In our Mishnah Bosai, where halacha l'maisa, again, Reuven went ahead, right? I went ahead and I rented an animal to Reuven. And then Reuven lent it to Shimon. And now the animal dies of natural causes. So as a socher, as a renter, Reuven is pater. But as a borrower, as a shoel, Shimon is chayiv. So the Tanakama said, Reuven, the socher, doesn't have to pay anything to me, the owner. But Shimon, the shoel, the borrower, has to pay the value of the animal to Reuven. To which Rabbi Yossi says that makes no sense. If anyone's going to pay anything, Shimon, the borrower, is going to pay me, the owner of the animal. I will say, and that's how he paskin. Like Rabbi Yossi, that's how he paskin. Can't have any unfair enrichment in these kind of cases. All right. We'll say, great Mishnah. Here we go. Amar l'shnayim. Right? We'll say, I go over to Reuven and to Shimon. And what do I say? Gazalti, strange case. Gazalti la'acha mikem, mana ve'eni odeh eze mikem. Right? I will say, I want to be a Baal Tshuva. Who doesn't want to be a Baal Tshuva? Right? I will say, I'm tired of living with inconsistencies. I'm tired of living, again, with sin on my record. I want to go ahead. I want a clean slate. So I know that I stole. I go over to Reuven and Shimon and say, guys, it's a difficult conversation for me. Right? I stole from one of you. I just don't know who. Okay, that's case one. Next. Aviv sha'acha mikem hifkid limana ve'ini odea ezo. Right? Or I'll go over to Reuven and Shimon and say, Reuven and Shimon, listen, one of your fathers deposited money with me for safekeeping, and I have it, and I want to return it, and I don't know which of your fathers. So I will say, obviously, this is presupposing their fathers died. So I don't know whose father deposited with me. Both fathers died. Obviously, I want to give it back. So I will say, what's the halacha? No sin l'zemana u'l'zemana shahodim mipiatzmo. If I want to make good, then what? I pay both parties. So I go over to Reuven and Shimon, guys, I stole from one of you. I don't know who I stole from. Fine, pay them both. I go ahead and I go over to Reuven and Shimon. One of your fathers deposited money with me. I don't know who. Pay them both. Now, I will say, now why that is, we'll have to see in the Gemara. Because halachically, that doesn't seem to make sense. First of all, in general, I will say, hamotzi mechavero alav haraya. Right? Again, money remains with the party that has it right now until it's proven that he owes it to someone. So we'll have to see what the mechanics of this are. Next, shnaim shef kido eitzel echad zem mana v'zem asayim. So we'll say, watch this case. These are great cases. Reuven and Shimon came and deposited money with me. I'm watching it. One of them gave me $200, one of them gave me $100. So what happens? Well, say now they come to reclaim their money. So zeh omer sheleima asayim. So I will say both now Reuven and Shimon are claiming that the 200 that was deposited was theirs. So both are claiming the $200. So we'll say, so now what do I do? So no sin lezemana ulezemana v'ashar yemunach ad sheyavo elio. So we'll say, so what happens? I give each of them 100. Now why do I give each of them 100? Why each of them 100? Why? Because both of them are entitled to 100, and the remaining 100 remains in escrow, messianic escrow. Right? So it remains in escrow until Aliyah Hanavi comes, and it's Aliyah Hanavi ultimately again who resolves all of these things. Or essentially, we'll say, a teku. Right? So this is a financial teku. We leave the money in messianic escrow. Aliyah Hanavi will go ahead and Aliyah Hanavi will say, but I just want to point out, why is it that Eliyahu Hanavi is the one who resolves questions? Right? Why is that? It's not Mashiach. It's interesting. It's not Mashiach. It's Eliyahu Hanavi. So I'll say, so understand, often where there's questions, unresolved questions, there's machlokas. Where there's machlokas, there's tension. There's tension, like interpersonal tension. Remember again, I will say, Eliyahu Hanavi made the mistake once of maligning Klal Yisrael. Right? He says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Azavta Masrasa, Klal Yisrael left your Torah. He spoke negatively about Klal Yisrael. So I'll say, so kind of like Eliyahu Navi's mission is to bring shalom within the ranks of Klal Yisrael. This is the reason why Eliyahu Navi attends every single bris. Right? Why do we have a kisei shel Eliyahu? Because Eliyahu Navi is the one who says that Klal Yisrael left your bris, they left the covenant. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, really? Eliyahu Navi, you're going to be one very busy man. If only we could see him, then we wouldn't have to say Tachman. Right? But Lamaisa, Eliyahu Hanavi attends every single bris because that is the Ribono Shel Olam's way of showing him you were wrong. You might be great, but even you, as great as you were, did not fully comprehend the greatness of Klal Yisrael. They never forsake the covenant. They never turned their back on me. And ultimately, Eliyahu, you caused a little bit of tension, so your job is resolution of all questions. Rabbi say, you know why? What did Chazal say? Ein simcha ka'ataras hasvegos. There is no greater joy in life than the resolution of doubt. I will say, can you imagine the day when Eliyahu Hanavi comes and we have the whole list of questions, a shas filled with questions, and all of these kind of cases where ultimately people owe money? So can you imagine the simcha when we get those answers? That simcha of resolution of doubt is going to cause so much a proliferation of shalom within the ranks of Klal Yisrael. So therefore, Eliyahu Hanavi, who spoke a little bit negatively about Klal Yisrael, who said that we're not as great as we are, Lemais, again, his job is to cause shalom. His job is to resolve doubt. His job is to bring simcha. Incredible. So I'll say, so that's opinion number one. Rabbi Yosef says, no, that can't be the halacha. Im kein mahiv siramai. Rabbi Yosef says that makes no sense. We'll say, watch this. So imagine this case where Reuven and Shimon deposited money with me. Let's call it that Reuven said he deposited 200. Reuven deposited 200. Shimon deposited 100. Now they both show up, and again, I'm fuzzy on the details. So now both of them are claiming 200. So we'll say, what does Tanna Kama say? Fine, give them both 100 and let the rest remain in messianic escrow. So Yossi says that doesn't make any sense, because then what's the incentive not to lie? In other words, anyone who wants to try to finagle something, you're never going to lose. You'll always get back, right? Assuming the amounts work like this, you'll always get back your amount, and I don't know, maybe you have a chance of even getting a little bit more. So Rabbi Yossi comes along and says, listen to this. Ella hakol yehimunach ad sheva Eliyahu. Rabbi Yossi says, in this kind of case, the entire amount, the entire 300, gets put in messianic escrow. If we're not sure what to do, just put the whole thing away. So we'll say, now what that does is, that goes ahead and disincentivizes lying. Because we'll say again, a person only lies if what? If they think they're going to gain. But if I know for sure that I'm going to lose, people don't lie. So if I know that by lying, everything gets put in escrow, I'm not going to lie. Both say similarly again in the case of two utensils. So we'll say, let's say one is worth $100, one is worth $1,000. So each party now claims the nicer utensil is theirs. Reuven and Shimon show up, both is right, it's theirs. So the Gemara says, what do you do? No sines hakatan la'achad mehem. So we give the smaller utensil to one of them. Umitoch hagadol no sin demei katan. Now, both is interesting. Now, according to Rashi, what's actually happening over here is we break the larger utensil, right? Assuming that it's the type of utensil that if broken, the shards are independently valuable, and we give a small shard corresponding to the value of the small utensil to the other party. In other words, we give them both equal amounts corresponding to the value of the smaller utensil. The Gemara says, "Umitoch hagadol nosin demekatan l'sheni, v'ashar yemunach ad sheva Eliyahu," and you leave the rest in messianic escrow. Once again, Rabbi Yossi, imkein mahiv sid ramai. That doesn't make any sense. About say you've incentivized lying because there's nothing to lose. Elaha kol yemunach ad sheyavo Eliyahu. Rather, about say, what do we do? The entire amount remains in messianic escrow until Eliyahu Hanavi comes. Incredible. They both say, the Gemara points out something fascinating. Alma misfeika mafkinan mamon v'lamrin and uka mamon b'cheskas marin. I both say, let's focus on the first case. I go with Reuven and Shimon. I say, Reuven and Shimon, I stole from one of you. I don't know which one of you I stole from. What's the halacha? What did the Mishnah say? Pay them back. I should pay them back. I should pay both of them back. So Gemara says, interesting. So what do you see from here? You see from here, both say that halacha l'maisa, even in the case of safek, we extract money, and we don't say let the money remain wherever the chazaka owner is. In other words, we'll say even in the case of theft, right now, who has the chazaka of ownership? Who has the chazaka of ownership? Me, the thief. It's in my possession. But yet, what do we see from here? Again, I know. But here's what I know. I know that I only owe one. Right? I know that I owe money. What else do I know? I only owe money to one of them. Yet, what does the Mishnah say? Pay both of them. So, what do you see from here? You extract money even out of doubt. So the Gemara says, really, is that true? Or minhu? Shnaim shev kidu eisal echad, zeh maneh v'zeh masayim, zeh omer shli masayim, v'zeh omer shli masayim, nosim l'zeh maneh l'zeh maneh, v'ashar yehi munach ad shiava ilio. But I will say, look at the case of Pikadon. Right? Again, Reuven and Shimon both deposited money with me. Right? One 200, one 100. They both come back claiming the 200. What's the halacha? I give them both 100 and the rest is in messianic escrow. So we'll say, see from here that we don't extract money out of doubt. So what's going on over here? So Shimon says, no. Amarle, Pikadon, Agezal Karamis, two different cases. The first case of the Mishnah is a case of theft. The second case of the Mishnah is a case of Pikadon. Gezel da avadisura kansura banon. We'll say in a case of theft where I did something wrong, essentially the rabbis penalized the thief. They penalized the thief. You stole. Okay, you don't know who you stole from. You know what? That's your problem. If you want to make good, then pay everyone back. It's a knas. It's a penalty. Pikadon de la avadisura lo kansura banon. I will say, but by pikadon, where I'm the holder, I'm the shomer. I didn't do anything wrong with the deposits, and therefore halacha l'maisa again, give them both 100, and the rest remains in messianic escrow. Incredible. So the Gemara says, "V'rami pikadon, apikadon, rami agezal agezal." But the truth is, I can even bring a contradiction in the cases of pikadon, in the cases of gezal. How so? Here we go. Pikadon apikadon diktani reisha o avim shel achamigem hifkid etzlimana ve'im yodea ezuhu nosim lezemana lezemana. So we'll say now, listen to this. Let's look at the cases of pikadon. Right, case the one of Pikadon. I go over to Reuven and Shimon. Reuven and Shimon, one of your fathers, deposited $100 with me. I don't know which father it was. What did the Mishnah say? What's the halacha? Pay them both. Okay, watch this. Or minhu, shnaim shev kidu. You have to say again, what was the second case? The second case in the Mishnah was that two people deposit money with me. Right? One 200, one 100. And what? I don't know who's who. What's the halacha? Give them both 100 and let the rest remain until aliyah, messianic escrow. So it's a contradiction. In case number one of Pikadon, when I don't know who the owner is, what's the halacha? I have to pay them both. In case number two, where I don't know who the owner is, I don't have to pay them both. I give them both the basic entitlement, and the rest remains until Eliyah Navi. So what's going on over here? The Gemara says, Amarava, no, it's not a problem. Reisha nasek mishev kido lo b'shnei krichos, dahavi leila medak. Seifa nasek mishev kido lo b'krach echad, talo havi leila medak. So I'll say, listen to this. Apparently, I will say, there are different kinds of cases of deposits. There's a case of what we call shnei krichos. Shnei krichos, we'll say, literally means two bundles, represents a case of where two people deposit money with me or an object with me at two different times. Now, two different times doesn't have to mean 2 different days. It just means that they're doing it in two distinct time frames. So I will say, when that happens, there is a burden of responsibility upon me, the shomer, to remember what? Who gave me what? Who gave me what? That's part of the shmira. If I'm watching multiple items of multiple people, part of my shmira is to remember who gave me what. That's different than a case, I will say, of what we call krach echad. Krach echad is, imagine Reuven and Shimon show up at the same time, and they both put their stuff on my dining room table. So I will say, so clearly, if they're coming at the same time, putting down their stuff at the same time, that means that what? They're not makbid with one another. Because if they would be makbid with one another, they'd be a little bit more careful to give it separately and independently. So if they're not makbid to differentiate their items, then what? I, the shomer, don't have to be any more responsible as well. In other words, we'll say, I have no more responsibility to the item than the owner itself has responsibility to the item, which is a tremendous yisod in general. Right? I, the shomer, have no greater responsibility to the item than the owners themselves have towards it. So the Gemara says, therefore, like this, in the case of where the fathers deposited money with me, that apparently was a case of 2 different time frames. Because it will say, because again, we're talking about a case where that's what? One person deposited money with me. Right? Remember again, I'm going over to Reuven and Shimon and I'm saying, one of your fathers deposited money with me, I'm just not sure who. Which means I received a deposit from one person. I'll say, when I receive a deposit from one person, what's my obligation? To remember who gave it to me. If I fail to remember, I have to pay them both. Case number 2, where Reuven and Shimon deposited money with me, that's a case of where they came together, plopped down their money together. I'm like, guys, if you don't care enough to differentiate who gave me what, I'm just watching $300, right? And assuming that you are going to be honest with one another, and when you show up and claim your money, I'll honor your claim. But I have no greater responsibility to your money than you do. Incredible. And therefore, Allah L'maisa, in that case, when they both show up claiming the $200, what do I say? Here's 100 for you and 100 for you, because that's your basic entitlement. And the rest of it, messianic escrow. Incredible. Kigon daf kidu tarvai bahadi adadi bichad zimna. I will say this is like where Reuven and Shimon both came along at the same time and deposited their money with me at one time. The Amr Lahu, I say to them, Ant gufaychu lo kapidasu adadi ana kapidna. If you Reuven and Shimon, you're not makbid with each other, so I should be makbid with you. Incredible. So we'll say, so that's how we resolve the two different cases of Gaza. So we'll say, this is actually an important distinction. So halacha l'maisa, where there is either one depositor or two depositor in two distinct time frames, I, the shomer, have a distinct responsibility to remember who gave me what. When multiple people are showing up at the same time and just plopping down stuff and ask me to watch it, I, the shomer, have no greater responsibility to the item than the owner. And therefore, if they're not makbid on one another, I don't have to be makbid to remember who gave me what either. Very interesting. From Yagez Lagez. I will say, what about the cases of theft? So the Gemara says, listen to this. Katani hacha amr l'shleim gezat le'acha mikem mana ve'eni odea mikem. Oh, right. Ve'eni odea mikem. Oh, aviv shalacha mikem hefkid li mana ve'eni odea eza. No sin l'zeh mana u l'zeh mana. So in the case of Gezel, I go to Reuven and Shimon, I stole something from one of you, and I don't know which one of you I stole from. What's the aliyah? Pay them both back. Or minu raise a kasha. Gazel, listen to this case, it was very interesting. Gazel, Gazel. If I stole from one of 5 people, and I don't know who I stole from, Ze Omer, Osi Gazel, Vize Omer, Osi Gazel. So let's say now what's happening in this case? Everyone is claiming, of course, that they are the victim. So, okay, right? Now, just to be clear, I know that I stole. Here, in this case over here, each of the parties is claiming they are the victim of theft. What's the halacha? This is great. What's the halacha? So the Gemara says, Maniach gzila b'neihem umistalik divi Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon says it's called drop and run. Drop and run, right? Drop the object in the middle of the group and run. Let them figure it out, right? I have an obligation to return the stolen object. I'm returning it, then go. So you both say, what do you see from here? And I both say, this is dramatically different. In other words, in our Mishnah, I go over to Reuven and Shimon. I stole from one of you. I don't know who I stole from. What's the halacha? Pay them both. Yet, in this case over here, I go over to a group of 5. I know that I stole from one of you, and each of them are claiming, yeah, it was me. What's the halacha? Drop one object in the middle and run. So why don't I have to pay all of them? To which the Gemara says, Alma, misfeika lo mafkina mamona, v'aminan ukim mamona becheskas Meir. So we'll say, what do you see from here? In the second case, we don't extract 5 payments from me, from the Ganav. Rather, again, I'm chayiv once. I go ahead and I pay the money, and that's it. What's going on? So we'll say, so how do we reconcile these two rulings? So the Gemara says, Umimai demasnisin dahacha Rabbi Tarfon hi, diktani Allah. So I'll say, so how do you know that our Mishnah reflects the view of Rabbi Tarfon? Diktani Allah dahi mod Rabbi Tarfon ba'omer l'shnayim kazalti le'acha mikem ve'eni yodea eza mikem ve'eni yodea eza mikem. So I'll say, because it's explicit. Rabbi Tarfon said like this, that if I steal from 2 people, Reuven and Shimon, I go over to them and I say, guys, I don't know who I stole from. What's the halacha? Shenosim l'zemana u'l'zemana. Even Rabbi Tarfon agrees that halacha might say pay them both back. So we'll say, I don't understand. What's the distinction in the cases? In our Mishnah, I go over to 2 people, I stole from one of you, I don't know who I stole from, pay them both. Yet, in Rabbi Tarfon's case, I stole from one of 5. Each of them are claiming they are the victim. I only have to pay once, drop and run. To which the Gemara says, Hasam dikatabile hacha beba let's say sidei shemayim. Oh, so we'll say, here we go. And we'll say, this is the understanding we've been waiting for. We'll say, in the case of the I stole from 5 people, I stole from one person in a group of 5, but I don't know who the victim is. So what's the halacha? I drop and run. The Gemara says, look at Rashi, Hasam de katabile, v'hu ein chafetz litain ela min hadin, u'mesveka leslan l'chiyuve l'chol chad v'chad. Suppose in the case of where I stole from one of 5 people, and I don't know who I stole from. I will say, even though each of them is claiming that they're the victim, obviously I will say, none of them are capable of proving their claim. Because if they were capable of proving their claim, then what? Then I would pay that person. So in this case, I will say, what is my liability as a thief? My liability as a thief is to return the stolen object. That is my legal liability. So therefore, when I drop the item in the middle of the chevra over there and run, I have fulfilled my obligation. Rabbi will say, our Mishnah is Biba Lotzeis Yedei Shamayim. So Rabbi will say, over here in the Mishnah, I want to expunge my spiritual record. So I'll say, I want to know that I've done the right thing and that I've rectified the wrongs in my life. So therefore, again, I will say, what am I doing? I'm going above and beyond. There is satisfying your legal requirement and there is satisfying your spiritual requirement. My legal requirement is, I stole from one of them, I don't know who it is, drop and run. That's the legal requirement. The higher spiritual requirement, I will say, is, I wronged another person. And I want to right that wrong. But I don't know which person I wronged. So therefore, again, if you want to fully expunge your spiritual record, and you want a completely clean slate, you have to go above and beyond. I will say, this is very important. Let's finish this up. Rashi says over here, so we'll say, I'm coming on my volition. I want to say, you know what? I want to expunge my spiritual life. I want to clean the slate. So what do I need to do to know that in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm good? So we'll say, so again, if I come up, I come to my Rebbe and I say, Rebbe, help me. I want to go ahead and expunge your record. I want a clean slate. So I was going to say, listen, what are your options? You pay one of them. It's possible you're giving to the wrong person. You put it in messianic escrow, you are definitely depriving the victim of his money. So the only way to know that you are making good, that you are doing good on all counts is what? Pay them both. So both say, you also see something really incredible over here. That in life, when I do something wrong, so I say, sometimes the mechanistic process of fixing the wrong is not enough to restore your spiritual record. Sometimes when I do something wrong, so in order to go ahead and fully rectify myself spiritually, I have to go above and beyond. It's not enough just to kind of erase the stain. It's not enough just to go ahead and legalistically or mechanistically fix that which is broken. But at the end of the day, I want to restore my spiritual stature. I want to be good in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes that demands even a higher level of restorative activity, a higher level of tshuvadik activity. Righting the wrong is kind of like the price of entry. But then if you want that spiritual clean slate, you have to bava, I have to go above and beyond. Incredible. The Gemara says, so also, you see over here, it says, in the case of the Mishnah, I'm admitting of my own volition. So obviously you're talking about a person who wants to go ahead and bavad lot says Shamayim. Incredible. Amar Hasam, in the case of where I stole from one of 5 people. So we'll say, so just an interesting idea. So there's what we'll call legal tshuva and spiritual tshuva. Legal tshuva, drop and run. Spiritual tshuva, you got to just pay back everyone, because this way you know that you've, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, you've done good. So Gemara goes weiter. So the Gemara says, Amar Hasam, in the case of where I stole from one of 5 people, now is drop and run. Tavile, this Gemara says, what's happening over here? Each of those 5 are claiming that I owe them money. V'halo matoin. So I say, I go over to the group of 5 people. I know that I stole from one of them. I don't know who I stole from. They're each claiming it was me. What am I responding? Rav Yehuda Amar Hala Shosek. I'm silent. Rav Masna Amarav Hala Sava. I'm base. I am saying about side. I'm yelling back. Rashi says, Eni Makirecha. I don't know who you are. Right? So they're each claiming you stole from me. I say, I'm so sorry. I don't know who you are. I know who you are. So I say the opinion that says that I'm screaming back. But it doesn't have to be screaming, but I'm claiming back. I don't know who you are. Avashtika Koda. If I was silent in the face of the claim, ultimately, again, that silence would be acquiescence. The one who says that I'm quiet, Being silent, I will say, in this case, is not considered to be an admission. I will say, normally we say, shtiga koda, silence is admission. I will say, in this case over here, silence is not admission. Why not? So the Gemara says, Matzi amarle, Hy'd shtiki l'chol chad v'chad da'amina dilma hayhu. I will say, I could claim over here, look, the reason I'm silent, I will say, remember again, I could say in my defense, the reason why I'm silent is why? I don't know who, I'm admitting, I don't know who I stole from. I know it was someone from this chevra. I don't know which one of you. So the reason when you're yelling at me and saying that I'm the thief, the reason I'm quiet is not because I'm admitting to you. It's really because I don't know. Okay? So it's Amar Maniach Gzela Minei Umistalik. Supposed to now watch this. So remember again, the case of I stole from 1 of 5, I don't know who I stole from. Each of them are claiming that they are the victim. So what do? Drop and run. Drop and run. So the Gemara says, now what happens then? The shakli lehu kulhu va'azli. So we'll say, so what exactly happens in that case? So very nice. You drop the object in the middle of 5 people who are claiming that they are victims of theft. So now what? They take the object and what? What exactly occurs? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Abba bar Zavda Amarav, kol safek kinuach lechatchila lo yitol, ve'im nota lo yachzir. I will say, it's fascinating. We just learned this week. So I will say, here's the problem. The problem over here is that halacha l'maisa, we have an issue, right? So what Rabbi Abba Zavda said, I will say, if I come across an object, remember this is an Metzia, so we have this. If I come across an object that looks like it was placed intentionally, most remember again we had this case, for example, you find a garment by a wall. So that could be potential intentional placement. What do you do with an item that was potentially intentionally placed? What do you do? You leave it alone. Leave it alone. If you picked it up, you don't give it back. They both say, now what that means is, it's yehemunach at shiyavo elio. Because again, the problem is, once I picked it up, we're talking about an item that doesn't have a siman, so therefore there's no real way to return it. So even when someone says that it's theirs, I can't return it because they can't give a siman. So it has to remain a messianic aspect. Look at Rashi. I find an object that does not have a siman in an area that is only partially secure. So lo yitlena. So we'll say, so again, as we just said before, ideally, leave it alone. Leave it alone because it's possible someone intentionally placed it there. But if you took it, you can't return it. Rashi says, so we'll say, so bottom line, just for the sake of time, that halacha l'maisa, look at the end of that Rashi, alma, midi de mesafkalan de man ninhu, tzarach lanicho biyad mishu achis baradavar. So we'll say, here's the problem. What do you see from here? You see from here that halacha l'maisa, if something potentially belongs to someone, you ideally should leave it alone. Right? So therefore, I will say, in this case over here, where Reuven goes, right, I'm the thief. I stole from 1 of 5 people. Right? They're each claiming they're the victim. So what do? Drop and run. So I will say, so technically speaking, none of the people there are permitted to pick up that object. Right? Why? Because it may belong to someone else. And in the case of an object that belongs to someone else, really the ideal is, don't touch it. So what exactly am I rectifying over here by dropping that object into the middle of the group of 5? To which the Gemara says, you're right. Amr Rav Safra, v'yaniach. Rav Safra says, ultimately again, leave it there. Leave it there. Rashi says, Amr Rav Safra v'yaniach, hadik tani mistalik, lav delishkalu inhu v'lezlu, v'lo sheretzi enam yado, ela temunachas ad sheyisbarer hadavar, v'hai mistalik silu kadinu, v'yaniach gzel b'fneim bebezdin, v'yomar biru shal mizah, v'yital v'yistalik minadim. Let's say, Rav Safra says you're right. It doesn't mean you drop it in the middle of them and run. What it means is, bring it to Beis Din. Bring it to Beis Din. Place it in front of Beis Din and say, Beis Din, you figure this out. I don't have the mechanism or the tools to know who is the real victim. All I know is, I am the perpetrator of a crime. I stole X. I want to return X. I don't have the tools to figure out who is the owner. I'm giving it to you. You figure it out. Amalei Abaye the Rava. Mi Amar Rabbi Akiva. Lo zu aderech motzi asim midei avero. Ad sheishalim gzela l'chol chad v'chad. I remember again. Rabbi Akiva said. I will say now this is end of the same Mishnah in Yevamis. Right? Same Mishnah in Yevamis. Remember again. This is the case ultimately again of we saw this. Remember Yevamis days. Often we try not to remember our Yuval mistakes, right? Now let's say, but Lamaisa, again, remember, this is the case where halacha Lamaisa, again, I stole from one of 5 people. I don't know who I stole from. So the Tanakama says, drop and run. Drop it, right? Drop it in the middle of the 5, and then ultimately, again, go on your way. Go on your way. Rabbi Akiva says, no, that does not work. That does not work. Rather, what's the halacha, Bosai? The halacha is you have to pay every single one of them. That's Rabbi Akiva. Every single one of them. So the Gemara says, so this type of approach does not satisfy your requirement. You have to pay back every single one of the potential victims. Alma, misveika mafkina mamona, v'lo aminon uki mamona b'cheskas marei. So we'll say, what do you see from here? What do you see from here? You see from here that even in the case of Safek, you extract money. Because we'll say, one thing is absolutely sure, which is what? I don't owe money to 5 people. That is for sure, right? I only owe money to what? I only owe money at most to one person. Yet Rabbi Akiva says, even in the case of Safek, we extract money. Or Minu, the Gemara says, this is a fascinating case. Quickly, we'll say, watch this case. Let's say Reuven and his mother are in a house together. The house falls on them and kills them. Now just to give you some family background over here, let's call his mother Rachel. Rachel is a widow. Her husband is dead, right? And Reuven is an only child. So Rabbi say, so now watch what happens over here. So Rabbi say, so there is an inheritance dispute. Hopefully they wait until after the Levaya. Right? So there's an inheritance dispute. So we'll say, now watch this. So we'll say, watch this. The inheritors of the son. Now we'll say, now who are the inheritors of the son? That's the father's family. Right? The father passed away, but the father's family will be the inheritors of the son, because he's an only child, there are no brothers. So the inheritors of the son, or it could be also, or the brothers from the father, right? So the inheritors of the son, they go ahead and they say, mother died first. Because remember, what happens when mothers die first? Mother died first, that means the son inherited her, and therefore, halacha l'maisa, the inheritors of the son get the property of the son and the property of the mother. Yarshei omrim meis haben rishon. We'll say the inheritors of the mother say no. The son died first. And therefore, again, the mother's estate did not pass through the son, and therefore the mother's family inherits her estate. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Elu v'elu modim sheach loku. Everyone agrees that halacha l'maisa, we split everything. V'am Rabbi Akiva says, Modani bezu, shanechasim b'cheskasan. Rabbi Akiva says, I agree in this situation, halacha l'maisa, we keep the property in its chazaka dika status. In other words, we leave the property where it is. So the Gemara says, Rashi says, Rabbi Akiva modani bazeh, afal pi shani mishal beishamai, from b'shar shar nefilos yachloku, modani bazeh, bezu ani mod lo beisilo, shanechasim b'cheskasan. So Rabbi Akiva says, in this case, we'll leave everything where it is. Amar le hasam shema v'shema. So we'll say you can't compare the cases. Why? We'll say in the case of where I stole from one of 5, that case is a case of shema v'shema. In other words, in the case of the house falling down, maybe the mother died first, maybe the son died first. So the Gemara says, Gezel echa mechamisha bari v'shema. In the case of where I stole from one of 5 people, I will say it's a bari v'shema. What's the bari v'shema? The bari ultimately is that I stole. The shema ultimately again is which one. So I will say in the case of shema v'shema, that's what Rabbi Akiva says, keep property where it is. In the case of bari v'shema, again, remember, I will say in this case over here of the stolen, every one of the victims is saying it was me. So each of them is a bari. I am a shema. In the case of bari v'shema, Rabbi Akiva says if you want to make good, you have to pay each of the baris. So we have to stop over here, and we're stopping a little bit like in the middle of the sugya. I will say, but Meir Hashem again, we'll continue with this tomorrow and get some incredible halacha l'maisa on this as well. Shkoyach. They have. They're ready. Perfect. Meir Hashem. Good job, good to see you.